You believe you are free. You believe the choices you make each day belong to you, the clothes you wear, the words you speak, the opinions you defend with such feverish pride. But if one were to strip away the names, the screens, the advertisements, the fears, what would remain? A will, blind, ancient, restless. The same will that beats in the veins of the beggar and the king, the saint and the murderer. The same will that disguises itself as you. Every manipulation begins there, not in the hands of others, but in the structure of existence itself. Before the first lie is spoken, before the first bargain is struck, life itself persuades you to live. It promises sweetness, meaning, victory, but delivers struggle, boredom, and decay. You were born into a contract you never signed, one that demands you pursue desires that will never end, suffer pains that never justify themselves, and die without understanding the reason. This is the primal deception, and every human manipulation is only its echo. The intellect, that proud herald of humanity, is not master, but servant. It is the tool the will forged to pursue its own cravings more efficiently. Your mind is a negotiator, not a ruler. It does not choose what to desire. It merely rationalizes the desires already imposed upon it. And so you are persuaded daily, endlessly, by the machinery of your own instincts. You call it ambition, you call it love, you call it hope. But in truth, it is the will manipulating the intellect to keep the organism moving toward its next illusion. Look around you. Modern life has perfected this ancient structure of deceit. The marketplace whispers, "Buy this and you will feel whole." The influencer smiles, "Be like me and you will be loved." The politician roars, "Fear them and you will be safe." And you weary, yearning, confused obey, not because you believe, but because belief is easier than silence. Every manipulation is a mirror, and the one pulling your strings is not a stranger. It is the same trembling creature staring back at you. You are both the deceiver and the deceived. You sell illusions to others while purchasing your own. You lie to protect your peace, yet that peace depends on others believing your lie. In this grand exchange, truth has no value, only utility. They manipulate you not because they are evil, but because you are made of the same hunger. Each soul is a merchant of attention, a beggar of affection, a slave of validation. Even the purest love conceals a bargain. I will give you my care if you give me meaning. Even the most noble sacrifice whispers beneath its breath, "May I at least be remembered." In this sense, morality itself is persuasion, a mask placed upon the chaos of desire to make it bearable. If one listens carefully, beneath every social interaction there is a silent negotiation. Admire me, so that I may admire myself. Agree with me, so that I may rest in the illusion of being right. Need me, so that I may forget my emptiness. Thus, every conversation is a struggle disguised as harmony. Every compliment a soft command. Every apology a transaction. And the more civilized we become, the more exquisite our disguises grow. There was once a time when manipulation required effort, flattery, deception, seduction. Now, it requires only presence. A smile is an algorithm. A gesture is data. Your preferences, fears, and memories, harvested, monetized, predicted, before you even think them. The world no longer needs to manipulate you personally. It manipulates your environment. You swim in persuasion as a fish swims in water, unaware of the pressure until it is removed. And yet, what would you be without it? Remove the lies, and the structure collapses. Remove desire, and existence becomes unbearable. Remove illusion, and you meet the terrible face of truth that life, in its essence, has no purpose but its own perpetuation. That every being is a mechanism built to preserve itself at the cost of others. That love, morality, ambition, and art are the beautiful camouflage of a blind, hungry will. This, then, is the great irony. You despise manipulation, yet your life depends on it. Without it, the play would end, and silence would reign. But if you can see the strings, if you can watch yourself being moved and still move with awareness, then the manipulation begins to lose its poison. Lucidity becomes your rebellion. To see is not to escape, but to cease mistaking your chains for jewelry. Tonight, the theater is full. The audience applauds the actors, who have forgotten they are acting. The lights are bright, the dialogue convincing, but somewhere in the shadows, one figure sits still watching, not participating. He does not seek to escape the play, for there is nowhere else to go. He merely knows that it is a play, and in that knowing, cold, clear, merciless, he finds something resembling peace. The curtain has not yet fallen. The manipulations continue. The world still sells you dreams in elegant wrapping, but now the whispers sound different. They no longer seduce, they confess. You begin to see the tremor in every smile, the calculation behind every kindness, the desperation behind every offer. It is not cruelty, it is necessity. The same necessity that makes the flower seek the sun, that makes the predator kill, that makes the lover cling. Life itself is persuasion, a shimmering lie against the void. Do not turn away. Do not seek to destroy the illusion, nor to sanctify it. Simply look, without demand, without hope. For in that still gaze, manipulation loses its teeth, and the will trembles before its own reflection. To see the truth is not to be free, but it is to awaken. And awakening, though painful, is the only dignity left to the enslaved. Flattery is the gentlest weapon ever forged by the will. It spills no blood, it wounds by healing, and its victim smiles while being devoured. If you wish to enslave a man, you need not threaten him, merely tell him he is free. Praise him for his wisdom, his kindness, his originality. He will build his own cage to live up to the image you have painted for him. In this way, the manipulator gives birth to a ghost inside the victim's mind, an ideal self that demands constant maintenance. From that moment forward, the man no longer obeys you. He obeys the version of himself you created. Human vanity is the will's most exquisite vulnerability. It is the soft underbelly of pride, the blind spot of self-consciousness. Each of us trembles beneath the same hunger, to be seen as significant. This is not superficial, it is metaphysical. The will to live does not merely crave survival, it craves acknowledgement, reflection, confirmation that it exists and matters. Flattery is the mirror in which the will sees itself, and for a fleeting instant believes in its own worth. Consider how effortlessly praise circulates through modern life. It glitters on every screen, blooms in every comment, and masquerades as kindness. The world no longer says, "Be good." It says, "Be admired." And we obey, polishing our self-image until it shines bright enough to blind us. We become curators of our own illusion, addicts to approval, spiritual beggars collecting digital applause. The manipulator no longer needs to speak. The algorithm flatters us on his behalf. But beneath every compliment lies a transaction. When someone praises you, they purchase access to your defenses. They enter through the gate of your self-love, and once inside, rearrange your convictions. You begin to act not from truth, but from the fear of disappointing the one who admires you. The ego, intoxicated by praise, becomes its own jailer. There are those who flatter consciously the salesman, the lover, the politician. They understand that words are not currency but levers. They move your pride as one moves a mechanism. They offer you the illusion of superiority, so they may guide your obedience unseen. You may despise the crude manipulator who shouts, but the smiling one who praises you is far more dangerous. For the former wounds your pride and thus awakens you. The latter feeds it and thus enslaves you. But most flattery is not intentional. It is instinctive, a dance between two wills, each seeking validation. Even those who praise you sincerely do so to feel magnanimous, generous, kind. Their admiration is often self-admiration in disguise. They are not offering truth, they are offering themselves the pleasure of appearing gracious. Thus, even love in its tenderest expressions carries the trace of vanity. Flattery thrives where truth would offend, for truth is hard, angular, indifferent to feeling. Flattery softens the blow of existence. It tells you that your suffering has meaning, your errors are noble, your mediocrity is misunderstood genius. It dresses reality in velvet, and so you return to it, again and again, like a child to its lullaby. Ask yourself how much of what you call self-esteem is merely accumulated flattery. How much of what you call confidence is a fragile tower built from borrowed praise. If tomorrow every admirer fell silent, every screen went dark, every mirror cracked, who would you be? Would you remain, or would you vanish with the applause? Schopenhauer wrote that the intellect is not designed to know truth, but to serve the will. In flattery, this becomes visible. The mind does not seek accuracy, it seeks comfort. It does not ask, "Is this true?" It asks, "Does this sustain me?" And thus, we prefer the lie that warms us to the truth. that chills. Look at the rituals of the modern age, the self-portrait, the curated confession, the performative humility. Every act of self-expression conceals a silent plea. Tell me I exist. The manipulator does not need to invent your weakness. He only needs to echo it. He praises you for what you secretly doubt, and in doing so, he gains your trust. You mistake relief for respect, comfort for connection, and when his words no longer come, you feel abandoned, as though life itself has withdrawn its approval. There is an ancient cruelty in this, for the more we are praised, the more fragile we become. Each compliment adds another layer to the mask, until the face beneath suffocates. To live on admiration is to live on air, sweet, invisible, and fatal. And yet, the one who rejects flattery entirely becomes unbearable to others. Truth, when spoken without ornament, repels. Thus, we are trapped, poisoned by praise, starved by honesty. Perhaps this is why the wisest grow silent. They see that every exchange of admiration is a subtle exchange of power. They see that the purest relationships are impossible where vanity reigns. They see that to love truth is to risk being unloved by men, and yet they prefer solitude to servitude. To resist flattery is not to despise kindness. It is to see that kindness without truth is a form of deceit often unconscious, but deceit nonetheless. To accept flattery knowingly, without addiction, is the first act of self-respect. To hear praise and whisper inwardly, this too is manipulation, is to begin awakening from the dream. For the will can be studied, but never eradicated. Its hunger for significance will not vanish, but awareness can transform compulsion into comprehension. To see oneself craving approval is already to step outside the craving. The applause may still echo, but it no longer defines you. So when they flatter, you smile, but do not drink. Let the words fall, but do not let them settle. Know that behind every compliment stands a motive, and behind that motive, a frightened creature longing for control. The same creature you meet in your own reflection. And when you recognize that, the spell breaks. Flattery will continue to flow through the world like perfume, intoxicating, invisible, and cheap. But you will breathe differently. You will no longer chase the scent. You will smell the truth behind it, the odor of the will's desperation, disguised as admiration. And perhaps, for the first time, you will know the quiet dignity of indifference. Guilt is the leash the world fastens around the soul. It does not pull by force, it whispers of goodness, duty, belonging. You obey, not because you are commanded, but because you cannot bear the weight of being wrong. The will has no morality, it only desires. But civilization, fearing its own chaos, forged conscience as a chain. It taught the child to blush, the adult to apologize, the dying man to repent. Thus, the wild creature became a citizen tame, obedient, ashamed of his own impulses. They tell you guilt is virtue. They call it the voice of the divine. But often, it is only the echo of control. For what is guilt, if not the fear of losing love, approval, or belonging? Even your remorse is transactional. I suffer, therefore I deserve forgiveness. The manipulator understands this instinct. He does not threaten you, he reminds you of your supposed failures. He paints your decency as debt, and you, desperate to restore your image of goodness, surrender your freedom willingly. You apologize for existing too loudly, for wanting too deeply, for living beyond someone else's script. Religions mastered this art long ago. They discovered that fear of sin is more profitable than love of truth. To keep man dependent, they convinced him that he was born wrong and only through obedience could he be made right. This doctrine survives in modern form. Social approval, political virtue, digital outrage. The confessional has become the comment section. The priests have been replaced by the crowd. But guilt is not only imposed, it is desired. You cling to it because it gives you importance. Better to be guilty than insignificant. Better to believe your suffering has moral weight than to face its absurdity. In this sense, guilt is a luxury, a way of feeling meaningful in a meaningless world. The remedy is not shamelessness, it is lucidity. To see guilt as a mechanism, not a moral truth. When it arises, ask quietly, who benefits from my remorse? If it deepens your understanding, keep it. If it only feeds obedience, release it. True conscience is silent. It does not bargain or beg. It is not the voice of fear, but of clarity. It does not say, you are bad. It says, you have seen what is. And from that seeing, responsibility is born, not to please, but to understand. The manipulator feeds on your confusion between these two voices. He wants you moral, not conscious. He wants you guilty, not awake. For a guilty man is easier to guide than one who simply sees. Therefore, let guilt pass through you like a shadow across water. Do not resist it. Do not worship it. Watch it come and watch it go. When the mind no longer kneels before it, the leash falls away, and you begin to walk as one who answers only to truth. Pity wears the mask of virtue, yet its heart beats with quiet arrogance. It pretends to kneel, but stands a little taller than the one it consoles. Every gesture of pity whispers, "I would never fall as low as you." Schopenhauer once called compassion the highest moral impulse, yet he also knew that pity easily corrupts. For what we call compassion is often self-love in disguise. We help others not to free them, but to feel noble. We do not bow to their suffering. We feed upon it to prove our superiority. Observe how society worships the good-hearted, the philanthropist, the activist, the savior. They are applauded not for ending suffering, but for being seen trying. Pity becomes performance, suffering becomes currency, and the one in pain becomes a stage upon which others display their empathy. The manipulator knows this well. He plays the helpless one, the tragic soul. He invites your pity, not your understanding. He forces you into the role of rescuer, and once there, you cannot leave without guilt. You become addicted to your own goodness, enslaved by the need to save. In this way, pity turns strength into servitude. But the one who pities is also manipulated. The weak, through their suffering, learn to command the strong. They wield their pain as weapon and shield. "Look how much I suffer," they say, "and see what you owe me." The moment you believe them, you are trapped in their orbit. Their misery becomes the measure of your morality. In this dance, both suffer and both cling to their roles. The victim draws power from weakness. The savior draws pride from compassion. Neither seeks truth. Both seek significance. Pity, then, is not love. It is an alliance of vanity and despair. True compassion has no stage. It acts quietly, without audience, without self-praise. It does not humiliate the one it helps, nor does it elevate itself. It gives, then disappears as rain falls on the earth, and expects nothing in return. But such purity is rare. Most would rather feel good than do good. Pity thrives because it flatters two illusions at once. To the strong, the illusion of benevolence. To the weak, the illusion of importance. Both feed the will that restless need to assert existence through power, whether by dominance or by suffering. Even tears can be tools of control. Look closely at your own moments of pity. When you said, "Poor soul," what were you really saying? Did you grieve for them or for yourself, relieved that fate chose another? Did you truly wish to lift them or only to enjoy the feeling of being above them? Most pity is not love, but distance disguised as care. It draws a line between the broken and the whole, a line that flatters both sides. Modern life multiplies this theater. Every tragedy becomes a spectacle. Every sorrow becomes content. We scroll through pain as though shopping for causes that reflect our virtue. We post our compassion like a badge and call it kindness. But this is not empathy. It is aesthetic morality. We do not seek to heal the world, we seek to appear merciful, while keeping our hands clean. To see pity clearly is to destroy its charm. Once you recognize its secret pride, its desire to feel necessary, its hunger for moral power, it loses its halo. You begin to sense that much of what passes for goodness is simply vanity rearranged. This does not mean we should become cruel. It means our compassion must grow honest. Love that truly sees does not kneel, nor does it exalted understand. Understanding neither flatters nor condemns. It liberates. So the next time your heart stirs with pity, pause. Ask, do I wish to heal or to be seen healing? Do I act from love or from fear of appearing unkind? In that questioning, pity begins to dissolve. And what remains stripped of pride, stripped of reward, is something far rarer. Quiet compassion, free of vanity. That is not pity. That is truth in motion. Fear is the oldest language of the will. It speaks before words, before thought, before the self even knows it exists. It is the trembling pulse behind every decision, the silent architect of obedience. The manipulator understands this. If you wish to control a man, do not reason with him, awaken his fear. Show him what he might lose, and he will build his own prison to protect it. No bars are stronger than the ones we forge from our own panic. You fear hunger, so you work yourself to exhaustion. You fear loneliness, so you cling to the unworthy. You fear insignificance, so you beg for attention. Fear shapes you, markets to you, elects for you. It does not shout, it whispers, "If you disobey, you will vanish." In nature, fear was survival. In civilization, it became strategy. Rulers discovered they could govern not by strength, but by anxiety. Keep men afraid of losing status, security, reputation, and they will discipline themselves. A fearful population polices its own thoughts. No whip is needed. Guilt and dread suffice. Modernity has perfected this art. You no longer fear death, you fear being irrelevant. You no longer fear God, you fear the crowd. A single accusation, a loss of digital favor, and you collapse into apology. You call it morality. It is merely terror wearing a halo. Politics, religion, media, all thrive on the same fuel. They promise safety from the very dangers they invent. First they frighten you, then they sell you calm. It is the most profitable business in existence, manufacturing insecurity and monetizing relief. Fear is not merely universal, it is lucrative. But fear also dwells in intimate places. The lover who withholds affection, the parent who warns, "You'll regret it if you leave," the friend who says, "You've changed." These are small manipulations, but each feeds on the same primitive reflex. We surrender not because we agree, but because we dread abandonment. The tragedy is that fear creates what it flees. In fearing rejection, you become servile. In fearing loss, you become possessive. In fearing death, you forget to live. Thus, fear fulfills its own prophecy, ensuring the suffering it pretends to prevent. Schopenhauer saw this clearly. The will to live is not courage, but terror. Existence clings to itself not because it is good, but because it dreads its own extinction. And so life is an endless negotiation, with fear appeasing it, disguising it, baptizing it with noble names. You may call it ambition, prudence, love, but underneath, it is the same trembling. Even your virtues may be born of cowardice. You act kindly, lest you be hated. You obey rules, lest you be punished. You serve ideals, lest your life appear meaningless. Fear dresses itself in virtue and becomes invisible. To see it is painful, for it reveals that much of what you believed was free choice was only avoidance. But seeing it also disarms it. Fear thrives in darkness, not in scrutiny. When you watch it, name it, trace its origin, it begins to wither. For awareness is the one thing fear cannot inhabit. Freedom, in the Schopenhauerian sense, is not courage in the heroic sense. It is detachment from the compulsion to flee. It is not the absence of fear, but the quiet refusal to serve it. To live while knowing fear remains yet no longer allowing it to guide your hand. So the next time the voice of fear speaks softly, urgently, promising protection, do not argue with it. Listen and see it for what it is, the will defending its illusion of control. Thank it perhaps for its service, then walk past it. Let it bark behind you while you continue in silence. For the moment you no longer worship fear as truth, it becomes what it always was. A trembling shadow cast by the will, begging to be believed. And so, fear stands revealed not as an enemy, but as the oldest shadow cast by the will itself. You have seen how it speaks through flattery, how it kneels through guilt, how it masquerades as pity, how it governs through trembling. Each mask different, yet each mouth whispering the same command. Obey the hunger that made you. Gone. Now the theater grows quiet. The lights dim, but the play does not end. You sense there are deeper strings invisible, intimate pulling not from others, but from within your own pulse. The manipulation you feared outside has found its reflection inside. Ahead lies the darker half, not the hands that move you, but the longing that keeps you moving. Desire, comparison, morality, silence, and the final mirage called hope. There, the deception becomes divine, and only the lucid will survive its beauty.